Absolute silence enveloped the research bay of the Odyssey. Only the faint hum of biosensor equipment and the soft blinking of pale blue lights signaled that all systems remained stable. Riven stood there, his hand gliding lightly over the control screen, intently monitoring the data collected from the remote planet at the edge of the Valerian system. A world whose surface appeared lifeless, yet an eerie energy field cloaked it like a spectral shroud. Suddenly, everything went dark. A brilliant violet flash, like a bolt of cosmic lightning, tore the very fabric of space, swallowing the ship and every surrounding sound. Riven felt his body wrenched violently toward an unseen force, his mind spinning as if it were being shredded apart. Before he could even scream, all plunged into a cold and suffocating blackness. Riven awoke on soft ground, the pungent scent of metal and living resin filling his lungs with every breath. Around him stood softly glowing biopillars, their textures more akin to living organisms than to any material structure he had ever known. Before him loomed an immense domed space, alive with shifting patterns that pulsed and swirled as though breathing, both mesmerizing and deeply ominous. As he struggled to rise, he immediately realized his wrists and ankles were bound by flexible bioorganic tendrils that wrapped around him, cold as ice, yet unnervingly soft. Before Riven could even process what was happening, the sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the chamber, deliberate, powerful, and heavy with authority. The Queen of the Nithelians appeared. Zyara. She was taller than any woman Riven had ever encountered. Her silvery violet skin shimmered like pearl under the soft bioluminescent glow, her golden eyes sharp as blades yet bottomless like the vastness of space itself. Her flowing white hair cascaded down her back, undulating softly like waves of living crystalline strands. The armor she wore was a second skin, made of living bioalloy that not only protected but accentuated the breathtaking, formidable beauty of the supreme warrior she was. Zyara halted directly before him, tilting her head slightly, evaluating the strange creature with quiet, predatory curiosity. Her voice was low and resonant, merging seamlessly with the living architecture around them. "You are either a trespasser or perhaps a gift sent by destiny itself," Zyara said coldly. "Regardless, from this moment forward, you will be my mate." Riven froze, his eyes widening in stunned disbelief. "What? I'm a scientist, not someone's plaything." He struggled furiously, but the living bonds only tightened, sending strange energy pulses into his body that left him weak and dizzy. Zyara stepped closer, leaning down so that her soft white hair brushed against his face, like a deadly but gentle caress. "You will understand soon enough, fragile human. It is tradition for the Nithelians' queen to choose a permanent mate from worthy warriors, or from those of superior intellect such as yourself. You have been chosen." Riven gasped for breath, fear and fury warring inside him. He stared defiantly into those golden, endless eyes and realized he had just been dragged into a survival game far more dangerous than any scientific expedition he had ever faced. "My name is Riven, and I am not anyone's possession, not even yours, queen of your people." There was a long, chilling silence. Then Zyara laughed. The sound echoed through the chamber like wind rushing through crystalline forests. "Good. You have fire. I do not seek a slave. I seek a strong partner to challenge me, and perhaps to love me." The queen waved her hand. Slowly, the living tendrils loosened, and Riven collapsed onto the cold biofloor. Zyara turned away and began walking, her voice trailing back to him. "Survive my rights, Riven, if you truly wish to keep your freedom." The living door sealed behind her with a muted hiss, leaving Riven alone in the dim violet-tinged chamber, full of mystery and silent menace. He knew there was no way back. The battle for survival, and the bizarre fate binding a human man to an alien queen, had officially begun. Silence blanketed the biochamber as the living door sealed shut behind Zyara. Riven gently rubbed his wrists, the faint purplish marks left by the bioorganic bindings still visible on his skin, a clear warning that any reckless action came with a heavy price. A deep mechanical hum echoed through the space as the wall before him slowly parted, revealing a long, twisting corridor that curved and pulsed like the living intestines of some massive beast. Pale violet light and streams of glowing biofluids flowed alongside the walls. There was no way back. Riven stepped forward, fully aware he had been drawn into a game for which he had received no warning, no preparation. His survival instincts screamed at him. Everything in this place could kill him with the slightest misstep. A cold metallic voice crackled from unseen speakers. The survival rite begins. The outsider must overcome 3 trials to prove his worth and right to live. Failure equals death. Success will bring reward and acceptance. Riven clenched his fists, took a deep breath, and stepped into the first pool of soft light. The first trial. The bio-trap zone. The chamber opened into an artificial biome, a twisted jungle of towering organic columns soft as living flesh and dangling phosphorescent vines suspended like sinister, deadly nooses. Every step Riven took had to be carefully measured. Once he barely avoided a glowing vine snapping like a razor toward his throat, narrowly ducking and rolling away. The air grew heavy and oppressive, thick with the stench of viscous biosecretion that burned his nostrils and stung his eyes. Then, from the shadows, an armored centipede-like creature the size of a car slithered out. Its crimson eyes burned like twin embers, and its sharp, clawed legs shredded the ground as it advanced. Riven froze, heart hammering in his chest, but he quickly realized the beast only attacked in response to strong vibrations. Quietly, he slipped off his boots, stepping barefoot onto the soft ground to minimize sound. Silent and calculating, he slipped past the beast and escaped the zone unharmed. The second trial, the Hall of Illusions. As Riven entered, the world warped violently around him. Echoes from his past swirled and taunted. Visions of his family, old friends, painful betrayals, and deep regrets materialized before him, attempting to drown him in sorrow and longing. He saw himself back on Earth, his mother smiling warmly, his former lover reaching out her hand and calling his name. Gritting his teeth, Riven shook off the seductive mirage. He knew this was merely psychological warfare designed to break his will. Fixing his gaze on a beam of light at the far end of the shifting corridor, he pushed forward, ignoring the whispers and the cruel, hollow comfort of illusion. The final trial, the Arena of Death. Riven emerged into a massive circular arena. Hundreds of golden Nethelian eyes gleamed down at him from the surrounding terraces, cold and expectant. In the center of the ring waited a monstrous beast, a towering hybrid of rhinoceros and reptilian titan. Its thick armored plates and jagged horns were an unmistakable promise of death. No weapons. No allies. Riven had only his wits and speed. Watching closely, he studied the beast's attack patterns, noting a weakness, the vulnerable joint at the back of its massive hind leg, briefly exposed during its charging attack. Timing it perfectly, Riven dodged as the beast lunged forward. He dove and rolled to the side, snagged a length of fallen biochain from the arena walls and looped it tightly around the beast's legs, sending it crashing to the ground. With a final desperate surge of strength, he drove the sharp tip of a fallen metallic staff into the only exposed gap in the thick armor, directly at the base of the skull. The beast roared one last time, then collapsed with a thunderous, shaking thud. The arena fell silent for a long heartbeat. Then, as if ignited by unseen fire, the crowd erupted into deafening chants that echoed from wall to wall. Riven! Riven! The massive arena doors slid open. Zyara stood there, watching him with an expression both surprised and impressed. She walked gracefully toward him, stopping only when her golden eyes locked onto his. You have survived, and not just survived, you earned the respect of Nathelian warriors. Perhaps I was not wrong to choose you." Riven stood trembling, his body exhausted and aching, but his eyes never wavered. With a hoarse but unwavering voice, he answered, "I've never been one to surrender." A rare, enigmatic smile touched Zyara's lips, the kind of smile only a queen might give when she beholds a mortal bold enough to challenge the ancient survival laws of her people. "Then prepare yourself, Riven," she said calmly. "The next rite will be far more than survival. It will be the rite of permanent bonding." Riven was led through a long corridor, where soft violet light emanated from living biofibers along the ceiling, casting an ethereal glow that guided him into what felt like another world. His footsteps echoed faintly on the shifting, breathing floor beneath him, which seemed to change texture and density as if it possessed a will of its own. On either side, Nathelian warriors stood motionless, their cold eyes silently studying the small human who had somehow survived the 3 deadliest trials of their race. Ahead, Zyara waited. She still wore her living armor, but now the luminous patterns across her body pulsed rhythmically with her breathing, radiating an aura of majestic power and enigmatic grace. As Riven approached, Zyara raised a hand, signaling the royal guards to withdraw. The door sealed behind them with a soft, organic hiss, leaving only the 2 of them standing alone inside a vast spherical chamber that glowed with raw, crystalline energy. "You have proven your worth," Zyara said, her voice low, her tone a strange mix of formal gravity and a rare trace of personal emotion. "But my true test for you is only beginning. The rite of permanent bonding is not just the merging of bodies, it is the fusion of spirit and will. If you cannot endure, you will dissolve like the hundreds who have failed before you." Riven swallowed hard, feeling the weight of her words pressing upon him. Yet his gaze held no fear, only iron determination. "I did not come this far to die at anyone's feet. If this is my fate, I will face it to the end." Zyara smiled faintly, a dangerous, predatory smile laced with the faintest spark of hope. She extended her hand toward him, palm open. From it, fine living energy strands unfurled like silken threads, slowly snaking through the air to coil gently around Riven's wrist. He shuddered as a pulse of vibration flooded his body, the strands penetrating him, reading his cells, his thoughts, his most buried memories. The world around him dissolved in an instant. Riven was plunged into an endless void, where physics and reason no longer applied. Before him appeared vivid visions of his own life, long nights of isolation in the sterile labs of Earth, the distant dream of exploring unknown worlds, the gut-wrenching pain of losing loved ones, the betrayal of those he once called friends. Zyara's voice echoed omnipresent and unrelenting. "You cannot hide anything from this rite. If your will is strong enough, endure it all." Riven clenched his fists and stood firm against the relentless storm of images, words, and unbearable emotions. He refused to flee. With a primal roar, he pushed back against the invisible chains that sought to imprison him in despair. At the breaking point, when his mind and body could take no more, the darkness shattered like glass. The visions vanished. Riven collapsed back into reality, drenched in sweat, gasping for breath, as if he had barely survived the worst nightmare of his life. Zyara stood exactly where she had been, but her expression had changed completely. Gone was the cold, ruthless queen. In her eyes now was something else: shock, respect, even reverence. "You are the first in centuries to complete the rite and not be broken by it," she whispered, her voice trembling with awe. "Your will is stronger than anyone I have ever known." Riven wiped the sweat from his brow and gave a weary but proud smile. "Maybe it's because I'm human." Zyara stepped forward and gently placed her hand on his chest, over the hammering rhythm of his heart. Energy flowed from her palm into Riven, binding their life forces together. Slowly, a luminous bio-tattoo spread from Zyara's hand across Riven's skin, weaving into a breathtaking pattern that marked the sacred covenant between their species. "You are no longer a prisoner," she said softly. "From this moment on, you are my permanent mate. You are now part of the royal bloodline of the Nathelians." A blinding flash erupted from the completed mark, signaling the final seal of the bond. When the light faded, Riven and Zyara stood locked in silent understanding. A bond had been formed between them, one that transcended ceremony. They both knew it was the beginning of something deeper and forever unbreakable. Outside, the Nathelian warriors waited. The appearance of Riven, bearing the sacred mating mark on his chest, would forever alter how they viewed the outsider. The one human male who had dared to defy or revive and claim the heart of their untouchable queen. As Riven and Zyara exited the sacred chamber, rows of Nathelian warriors stood waiting, forming two solemn columns. They bowed in unison before their queen and the newly bonded mate. Yet their piercing gazes betrayed an unspoken doubt. Could this fragile human truly stand among their warrior bloodline? Zyara halted, her blazing golden eyes sweeping slowly over her people. Her voice rang out, fierce and commanding. "Riven is no longer an outsider. He is my permanent mate, and I will personally train him to become one of us." An eerie stillness gripped the air for a heartbeat before the hall erupted in thunderous unison. "For the Queen! For the Nathelians!" The great doors to the combat hall slid open. Riven followed Zyara inside, stunned at the sheer scale of the arena. Hundreds of Nathelian warriors moved with lethal grace, practicing with living weapons that pulsed and breathed as though aware of their purpose. Light whips, plasma spears, and energy blades that flickered with an almost sentient glow. Zyara turned to face him, her eyes now shimmering with an entirely different fire, that of a ruthless commander, and simultaneously a woman who had finally claimed her chosen mate. "Your body is not ready yet, Riven," she murmured, her slender, cool fingers brushing over his wrist. "But tonight, I will begin teaching you my way." Zyara led Riven into a secluded chamber deep within the training complex. The air inside slowly warmed, the living walls glowing softly like undulating waves of molten crystal. She stepped toward him, her living armor sliding open piece by piece, melting away from her skin as if it responded to an unspoken command. The breathtaking perfection of her body was revealed. A flawless balance of strength and grace, silver-violet skin seeming to glow in the dim light. Riven stood frozen, utterly entranced by the surreal beauty before him. Zyara reached for him and pulled him close, her voice a low, sultry whisper in his ear. "You are mine, Riven, but I want to feel you as you want to feel me." Her warm breath teased against his neck, and Riven lost what remained of his restraint. His arms wrapped around her slender waist, drawing her against him. Their lips collided in a kiss that was wild and desperate, burning with the weight of forbidden passion and long-denied hunger. Zyara's impossibly smooth living silk skin pressed tightly against him. The faint glow of her biolines shimmered brighter under Riven's fingers as he explored her form, her body responding with an almost electric thrill at every touch. She moaned softly as his fingers traced her shoulders, down her elegant spine, and tightened possessively around the curve of her hips. Zyara pushed him gently against the living wall, her golden eyes aflame with unbridled desire. "From this moment forward, we are one. Prove it to me in the only way two truly compatible beings can." Riven kissed his way down the curve of her neck, his tongue gliding along the heat of her skin. Their ragged breathing and mounting heat blended into a singular rhythm, boundaries of species and origin erased completely. In that hidden chamber, under the weight of whispered moans and primal longing, their bodies tangled together in a raw symphony of desire, exploration, and conquest. Each soft gasp, every desperate pull, and synchronized movement felt as if the two of them had been destined to collide from the moment of their creation. When the final waves of pleasure subsided, Zyara lay with her head resting on Riven's chest, tracing lazy, delicate circles across the softly glowing biomark patterns still radiating faint light from his skin. "You've exceeded everything I ever imagined a mate could be," she whispered against him. Riven smiled and gently ran his fingers through her silken hair. "Perhaps. Even I never imagined I'd come this far." Zyara chuckled quietly, pressing her lips to his chest one more time. "Tonight I claimed you. Tomorrow I will turn you into a warrior of the Nathelians." The gentle darkness closed around them once more, enveloping a bond newly forged not just by ritual, but by the primal instincts shared by both their worlds. On Nathelios, dawn did not break with blinding sunlight, but with gentle ribbons of pale violet light that drifted slowly across the sky, as though living energy itself was awakening after a long night of slumber. Riven awoke in the warm embrace of Zyara, her breathing soft and steady, her supple body curled around him like a royal predator finally at peace after their fierce night of passion. He pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead before slipping quietly from their living bed, steeling himself for what would be the most grueling day of his life. The moment Riven stepped into the training arena, dozens of cold, unyielding eyes locked onto him. Towering Nathelian warriors, their muscular forms enhanced by flowing bio-armor, regarded the human outsider with silent skepticism and contempt. Zyara emerged from the ranks, her gaze no longer soft as it had been the night before, but sharp and commanding, the eyes of a supreme leader. From this moment forward, Riven is no longer a weak mate. He will become a warrior of the Nathelians, or he will fall by your hands. No one spoke. One by one, they silently drew their weapons. Riven inhaled deeply, feeling the cold bite of steel and the burning heat of the coming trial. The first week was hell. Riven had to master the unpredictable nature of the living combat suit, which violently resisted every movement until it became fully attuned to its wearer. Again and again it threw him to the ground, constricted him like a predator, threatened to crush his bones. He had to learn to wield the plasma whip, a weapon that would only respond to those who mastered the delicate flow of bioenergy within themselves. Each failure brought the stinging lash of searing pain, leaving angry red welts burned across Riven's skin. Many nights, he lay sprawled in agony, teeth clenched tightly against the pain, determined never to let anyone, even Zyara, see weakness in him. Zyara watched silently from afar. She offered no comfort, no aid, only silent observation, her cold, regal eyes tracking every movement, every fall, every time he pushed himself to rise again. By the third week, everything changed. Riven began to feel the unity between his body and the living armor. The strikes of his opponents no longer staggered him. Instead, he deflected, dodged, and counterattacked with the unique blend of speed and flexibility his human form allowed, something the larger Nathelian warriors lacked. From an object of ridicule, he slowly became a threat even seasoned warriors approached with caution. During one session, Riven faced Vorak, one of the senior commanders, a warrior who had publicly vowed to break the weak human. Vorak charged like a thunderbolt, his massive biospear aimed directly at Riven's chest. But this time, Riven was ready. He slipped gracefully to the side, twisting under Vorak's guard like a whisper of wind. With a blinding snap of his plasma whip, he looped it around Vorak's wrist, reversed the hold, and brought the towering warrior crashing to the ground with just 3 precise movements. The arena fell dead silent. Then, as if struck by lightning, the crowd exploded into deafening chants. "Riven! Riven!" From the highest platform, Zyara descended with proud, radiant eyes that betrayed a deep personal pride. She approached, wrapping her arms tightly around her mate, whispering so only he could hear. "You have done it, and far beyond what I imagined." Riven pulled her close, brushing his lips softly against the sensitive curve of her ear, his voice low and rough with desire. "Tonight, I want the reward of a true warrior." Zyara shivered at his words, her smile a mixture of pride and barely contained hunger. "If you still have strength after today, I will give you far more than a reward." That night, as the Nethelian warriors slept in the secluded royal chambers, Riven and Zyara once again lost themselves in the primal dance of lust and longing. Soft moans and whispered cries of fiery need mingled once more with the pounding heartbeat of two different species now irrevocably joined as one. That night, Riven ceased to be a prisoner or outsider. He had become a warrior, a lover, and the eternal mate of the Queen of the Nethelians. The alarm sirens echoed across the planet Nethelios, like war trumpets summoning the dead. The once tranquil living domes now flared crimson, blazing with the signal of imminent catastrophe. Riven and Zyara rushed through the spiraling biotic corridors, their bodies moving in perfect sync with the living armor that clung to their forms. Each step was a pulse of determination, each breath a vow of war. In the skies above, the warships of the Zorthun, ancient enemies of the Nethelians, descended like carrion beasts, unleashing swarms of metallic clouds and legions of bioengineered machines, programmed for one purpose alone: destruction. Zyara stood tall on the highest balcony of the palace, her silver hair whipping in the wind, her golden eyes cold and unflinching as they tracked the descending enemy forces. "They dare return," she hissed, teeth clenched. "Riven, it's time you prove your worth not only in my bed, but on this battlefield." Riven tightened his grip on the hilt of his plasma whip, eyes glinting with an icy fire. "I've always been ready." The battle began. Riven and the Nethelian warriors stormed the front lines. The Zorthun machines towered over 3 meters tall, armored in layers that repelled conventional weaponry. But Riven, with the rapid analysis and creative edge only a human could possess, found their weakness. The biojoints, those conduits where their synthetic energy coursed through living tissue. He dove into the fray like a storm unleashed, dodging crushing blows with impossible agility, striking precise slashes across the energy joints with his plasma whip. One by one, the machines exploded in shrieks of light and shattered bone metal. The Nethelian warriors, stunned at first by his unorthodox yet effective tactics, quickly adapted. The tide turned. What was a desperate defense became a fierce counterattack. At the center of the battlefield, Zyara reminded them all why she was Queen Invincible. Her bioblades shimmered like lightning. Each swing unleashed a storm that cleaved through enemies like paper. They fought like mirrored halves of a singular force. Zyara, wild and powerful; Riven, sharp and unpredictable. They protected each other, struck in tandem, moved as one, as though their minds were still entwined from nights of burning union. Just when victory seemed within reach, the sky tore open. A massive form twice the size of the royal palace descended. The Devourer, the Zorthun's final weapon, a half-machine, half-living monstrosity capable of absorbing energy and endlessly regenerating itself. The Nethelian lines faltered, warriors falling back in dread. Even Zyara paused, her eyes betraying hesitation for the first time. Riven stepped forward, placing a steady hand on her shoulder, his voice deep and gentle. "We've overcome everything together. Don't forget, I'm still here." Zyara turned, her golden gaze locking with Riven's icy blue. In that moment, the fire rekindled within her. She gripped his hand tightly. "Then let's end this monster together." The Devourer roared, releasing beams of pure energy that melted everything they touched. Riven and Zyara charged forward like twin meteors blazing through the darkness. Riven baited its attacks, drawing its fury, while Zyara struck with precision at the weak points he exposed. The battle raged for hours. Both of them bled, their living armor shredded, crimson human blood mixing with violet Nethelian ichor across their skin. And yet, the perfect unity of human ingenuity and alien might achieved the impossible. Riven embedded a living energy core directly into the monster's biological nexus, forcing its systems into overload. The reaction spiraled out of control. The devourer exploded in a scream that shook the heavens, and the skies of Nathalios lit up like dawn after the longest, darkest night. Riven and Zyara collapsed to their knees on the blood-soaked battlefield, utterly exhausted but still clutching each other's hands. Around them, Nathalian warriors stood frozen, no longer in doubt. They fell to their knees in unison and cried out the name that had now become legend. Riven, Riven, Riven. Zyara squeezed his hand, her forehead pressing against his, breath trembling with elation and relief. You are no longer just my mate. You are the living legend of my people. Riven smiled faintly, his hand brushing her cheek with quiet, unshakable affection. Then take me home and give me a reward worthy of that legend. Zyara only laughed, her golden eyes glowing with both lust and love. You will have everything. Everything a queen can offer to the one mate she will ever claim. Never had dawn on Nathalios been more radiant. Bands of shimmering violet light drifted across the sky like living ribbons, while the organic towers of the capital glowed softly, celebrating the rebirth of an entire civilization. The royal palace was overflowing with warriors and citizens of the Nathalians. They had gathered to witness a moment unmatched in their history, the crowning of an outsider as co-ruler of their people. Zyara stood atop the highest platform, her royal armor woven from living crystal and ancient energy strands. Her golden gaze turned toward Riven, the mate, the companion, the man who had fought at her side and won the trust of an entire species. Riven walked steadily forward between the kneeling ranks of Nathalian warriors. His bio-armor had been remade, harmonizing human and Nathalian biology, bearing the unique marks of one who had crossed every known genetic barrier. When he reached her side, Zyara took his hand, her eyes shining with pride and deep affection. You have changed everything. From captive mate, you have claimed my heart, and the heart of my people. Riven smiled softly and tightened his grip on her hand. I never claimed anything, Zyara. I only walked beside you and beside your people. Zyara placed a gentle hand against his chest, over the softly glowing biomark that still pulsed like an eternal vow. Raising her voice, she addressed the gathered crowd. From this day forward, Riven is not only my eternal mate, he is our king. He is co-ruler for the peace and survival of the Nathalian species. The response shook the ground itself. King Riven, Queen Zyara, King Riven, Queen Zyara. When the coronation ceremony ended, the night transformed into endless celebration. Dances, bioenergy, fermented wines, and songs of triumph. Yet amid the noise and chaos, Riven and Zyara retreated to their royal chambers, where even the living walls seemed to whisper blessings of union. In the soft violet glow, Zyara slowly removed the remaining pieces of armor from Riven's body, revealing his sun-kissed skin and the battle scars of a true warrior. Her eyes glistened with both pride and raw desire. You are my king now, but I won't let you sleep easily tonight, Zyara whispered, pushing Riven gently onto the warm, pulsing surface of the living bed. Riven laughed softly, wrapping his arms around her, his voice low and teasing in her ear. If it's my royal duty, I'll gladly obey. Their lips met in a searing kiss, their bodies entwining like twin streams of uncontainable energy. Gasps, soft moans, and urgent whispers of pleasure wove between the kisses and touches. The flawless contrast of her silver-violet skin against his bronzed form, igniting a perfect visual symphony. Zyara clung tightly to Riven, each movement beginning slow and deep, then building toward an urgent crescendo, like the purest symphony played by two bodies from different worlds that had become one. The ragged sound of their breathing filled the room, the soft glow of Riven's biomark patterns flashing wildly in sync with every intense wave of fiery union. When the final peak passed and the storm of sensation receded, they lay side by side, breathless, yet at peace. Zyara rested her head against Riven's chest, tracing soft, lazy circles across the warmth of his skin. "My king," she whispered, her golden eyes sparkling with happiness. Riven stroked her silky hair with tender affection, whispering back, "And always, I'll be your man." Outside, Nathalia stepped into a new age, an age where for the first time a human and an alien queen had shattered all boundaries and forged an eternal alliance. And somewhere, beneath the living domes of that violet world, the legend would be told over and over. The one who was taken as a mate conquered an entire world.